Hello, my name is Tom Mahoy. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm starting a brand new book study today on Andy Stanley's book called The Next Generation Leader. This is a great book I've used many times over the years to help mentor and coach staff, and also even with my son, mentoring him. And so I just want to encourage you to take some time as we go through this book. And you can get more information about this book in the links in the description and find out where it is. Buy one for yourself. I encourage you to do that. Follow along. I'm only going to be summarizing some of what he's talking about. There's so much more, and it's a short book, so it's a great read just for your life to make a difference. And before I talk about the book, I want to discuss who a leader is. A leader really is anyone that has anyone following them. And you might think, well, a leader is someone that's a pastor or officer or a government person or a teacher, and that's true. But every person that has any influence, and I would say every person has influence, can be a leader. And we might as well learn how to lead well, right? And so that doesn't mean you're leading an organization or you're leading a small group, but you do have influence. And so in that sense, you're leading other people in the way you act, in the way you talk, in the way you interact with other people. And so this book is a great way of helping us to really fine-tune how we lead. So often we become so busy in what we're doing, and we lose our effectiveness as a leader. And this book is really great at kind of helping us to examine who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. And so especially if you're a church leader, this is a great book study for you. Again, get these books, get them for your staff, and it'll help for sure. And so Andy Stanley talks about these 5 areas, 5 concepts that are the cornerstone of this book. And I'm going to simply just read these 5 areas for you. The first is competence. Competence is something that we all appreciate in other people, right? If you go and you're trying to do something, you have someone that you're hiring to do work at your house, or you need someone to do something for you. You want them to be competent, to someone who knows what they're doing, that can get the job done effectively, right? And so there's many areas that for us that we need to be competent as well in life. And so leadership is one. We want to be competent leaders who know what we're doing. And it says leaders must channel their energies towards these areas of leadership in which they are most likely to excel. We'll talk more about that in today's lesson. The second concept is the concept of courage. The leader is the one who has the courage to initiate, to set things in motion, to move ahead. And being a good leader takes courage. I can tell you a lot of times people will say things against what you're feeling. Maybe sometimes God will cause you to do things as a leader that are difficult. Me, myself, all my life have tried to be a peacemaker, and that has served me well often. But sometimes by being a peacemaker, I've found that I didn't deal with situations like I should have. And one thing about peacemakers is sometimes you can fall asleep to your own vision. I found that's what I was doing for years. There's a lot of things that God wanted me to do, and I felt strongly to do, and I fell asleep to those things because I was trying to make peace with those around me. And I just want to encourage you, sometimes you have to do courageous things, and I'm not saying blow people out of the water. I'm saying do it with gentleness, respect, and order. But sometimes we need to wake up and say, I need some courage here. Help me, Lord. The third concept is clarity. A next generation leader must learn to be clear even when he or she is not certain. The tendency is when we're not certain not to say anything. And as a leader, you can't afford not to say anything. You have to be clear, even if it's, I don't know what's going on. Hey, let's pray about this. That's okay. At least give clarity about what the situation's, what's happening in that situation. And number 4, coaching. And he says you may be good, but without a coach, you'll never be as good as you could be. That's one thing I regret over the years, is I didn't find for many, many years a coach to help me personally. And I really didn't have people coming to me saying, can I be your coach? We live in an environment where these days it seems like mentors are hard to find, and it's hard to find people that want to have mentors. And so I just want to encourage you, be someone who wants to be mentored, who wants to be coached. The Bible says the wise person wants that, right? So if you want to be wise, and even if you are wise, you're going to learn from other people. And so get yourself a coach that will help you. And if you find looking for a coach, it's best to find someone who is in line with your values, especially as a Christian, who can help you in those areas, but who will help you and push you, and not just agree with everything you're doing, but push you in a way and be able to be unbiased in your life and tell you where you're missing it, right? You need to get a coach. Character. You can lead without character, but you won't be a leader worth following. Oh, that's so true. You can lead without character. That's very true. There's a lot of leaders out there who are leading who have not good character at all. But it says you won't be a leader worth following. And we want to be a leader worth following, right? So this section 1, chapter 1, is entitled, You're Doing Too Much. You're doing too much. And it's focused on the area of competence. And so he says in this chapter 1 that it's natural for young leaders especially, and probably most leaders, to try to prove ourselves by doing everything, right? And so we think the more the merrier, the more content we can provide, the more that we can get our hands on, the more that we can do, the better we are. And that's not necessarily true. In fact, most of the time it's not true at all. The more we try to do and make ourselves busy, actually is the opposite. We become less effective because we're doing so many things. That's where the cliche, we have too many irons in the fire, come from. We got too many things going on, wearing too many hats, trying to please too many people, and we end up letting down people that are often close to us, around us in life. So it says, perhaps the two best kept secrets of leadership are these: the less you do, the more you accomplish, and the less you do, the more you enable others to accomplish, right? Andy says that I'm a good communicator, I'm a good manager. He says I'm a good vision caster. He says, but I'm not good at follow-up. I know how to prepare a message, but I'm not good at planning an event. He found out early on that he wasn't doing anything to improve his communication skills. Those things were natural to him. Those things were something that he could wing it, right? And so he was saying, oh, I got that down. I can do those things. So I'm going to spend my time on those things that aren't very strong in me. And he was trying to spend time being a better manager, a better event planner. And over time, he found that he was having a hard time and not being very effective at the very things that he was supposed to be good at, right? And so I found that very true in my life. I remember when I was a youth pastor years ago, I was at an event and I loved doing outreaches and events. In fact, I loved setting up things. I loved going with the worship team and the band and setting up all the equipment. I loved setting up the projectors. I loved those things. I think it was so much fun for me to figure out the lay of the room and where we're going to put this, where we're going to put that, and work with our team and those things. But I remember one day we were doing an event at the Manatee Civic Center, and our worship team was going to do some worship there with a large group. Teen Mania was coming into town, and Ron Lewis was a guest speaker. And we had done a lot in our youth group all around the city and around the nation, and in fact many mission trips. And so we had people calling for our worship team to come and play, and I was so happy about that. In fact, I was also asked to come share a few words at the event. And so I came to the event, and I remember being there. I got there, and as I got there, I heard the Holy Spirit say, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Don't be busy setting up all these things. Focus on the only one thing that you're supposed to be doing, and that was speaking that day. And I remember hearing that thinking, oh, but I love this stuff. I really enjoy doing these things. And And then I felt like I'm going to let the worship team down and the sound team, video team, and I was a big part of doing all those things. And but I remember the Lord spoke to me, no, that's not your role right here. Your role is to be a youth pastor and to share the message that I give to you. And I would think back over time that I would often wing the message a lot of times because I could get that. I could get up and share things just from experience, and I wouldn't put a whole lot of time into it because I was giving myself to fill in the gaps that were needed on trips and stuff like that and help here and there. And I would be exhausted often when I would stand up to speak. And I remember sharing this with the worship team, and at first they had a hard time with it, but then they understood this was my role. And I didn't want to come off as a leader who wouldn't want to help. I like to get my hands dirty. And but here I learned a valuable lesson that I needed to empower other people to do those things. And there's other people that really enjoyed doing them as I did. And but that was, no one else was going to go and share the message that God gave me to share. And so I learned a valuable lesson about that. So the bottom line is only do what you can do, right? Of course, there's opportunities, there's times when you have to do other things. We're not saying that. He's not saying that. But overall, as much as possible, focus on the things that you're really good at. And what other 2 or 3 things that only you are responsible for at your work, for example, at your church, responsibilities that you have in business? What are those areas that you are tasked for, that you're responsible for, and define those things? And what are those things that define success for that organization? In other words, what is church, business, whatever it is, what is it that you're supposed to do to bring success to that organization? Define what that is. That's where you focus your energies on those things. That's where you're going to add the most value to your organization, and it's also going to be the things that probably you're most fulfilled in, right? The moment a leader steps away from his core competencies, his effectiveness diminishes, it says. The worse, the effectiveness of every other leader in the organization suffers too. A leader who isn't leading from the right zone will create an unfavorable environment for other leaders. So if you're going around, or if I'm going around trying to do everything and we're getting everyone's business and we're not doing the very thing that we're supposed to do, there's going to be problems, right? So he identifies 5 primary obstacles to a leader adopting this way of thinking. In other words, why don't we do this? And what are the obstacles in that? So the first thing is the quest for balance. I've heard this many times too in life, and there's this idea that we need to be well-rounded, right? You need to be well-rounded. And he challenges that and says, no, you don't need to be well-rounded. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Instead, strive for your organization to be well-rounded. In other words, don't rob from someone else that can do and loves to do what you're trying to do and aren't really good at and don't really enjoy. Empower them to do those things, right? But focus on the things that you are good at and you should be doing. So don't strive to be well-rounded, good at a little bit of good at everything. Really go after those things and hone into those skills that you have, those things that you enjoy, those things that are part of your life that you're like, man, this is what I get up for. I love doing this. Man, fine-tune that. Go get training in those things more. Develop that more and more and more and more, and you'll find that you'll grow and thrive, and you'll be the best tool for that organization that you're in than anything else, and if you were just to dabble a little bit into everything. He says that as you read the biographies of achievers, you will find over and over they were not well-rounded, they were well-focused. Love that. Not well-rounded, but well-focused. Number 2, a failure to distinguish between authority and competence. Authority and competence. And he gives the example of how he's the head of this church, a big, large church, and he's over all these different ministries as a senior pastor. And yet he goes into the video room of the church. He has no competency in that area. This is his words. I don't know how all that stuff works. So if he were to go into the video room and start barking orders and telling people all the things they need to do, there's going to be problems because everyone knows that's not his competence. And that's not something he's good at. He has authority there, but that doesn't mean that he's competent there. And so that's why we empower people who are competent to do great things in those areas, right? You oversee them, you help them, and but you leave them alone and let them do their work. Man, that's hard to do. I've found that so few people learn how to empower people. There are people who are waiting to be the next great leader of your church. There are people who are just, man, they're chomping at the bit to do the next great thing, to be the great servant, to help so much, and yet they're not given opportunity because the leaders of the church, the leaders of the organization, are not looking to recruit, they're not looking to help other people, to draw them out. And they're not looking to work themselves out of a job. I've heard that my whole life, and I did that. I worked myself out of a job, leaving our church after 27 years and turning it over to other people, other pastors, other leaders. And it was my job, I felt, to empower a team to lead. And I just encourage you, look for other people. There are people who are waiting, who have competency, and they need to be given that authority to lead in certain areas. So just because we have authority in an area doesn't mean we have to have competence there. Number 3, there's an ability to distinguish between competencies and non-competencies. This kind of goes with the last thing I just said. Sometimes we think that we're competent in every area, perhaps. Or, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. Oh, I can do this, I can do that. The truth is, we're not. You're not. If we're really honest, we're probably only really competent in a few areas in life, especially when it comes to an organization that we're working at. There's only a few things that we should do, and we should do those things very well. To think that we can be competent in all kinds of things, man, we got to get focused and realize, you know what? There's others who can do those things far better than I can. Let me train them, help them, and get them off and running. The fourth thing is guilt. Some leaders often focus outside their strengths because they feel guilty delegating their weakness. And again, that's often true because we think, well, I don't like doing this, so we think that maybe other people don't like doing that. You might not like taking notes and calling people on the phone. And you think, well, who likes doing that? There's lots of people that like doing that. There's lots of people that love to just do one kind of task, and they do it very well. They're very meticulous people. You might be a visionary and you're all over the place, right? And there's meticulous people who don't want to be the big picture people. You just tell them one thing they can do, and they're going to knock it out of the park, man. They're going to do it with great competency, and they love doing it, right? And so this guilt that we have, that I can't delegate. No, we need to find people that love those things. Now, you got to be careful about this too, I will say, because sometimes we can say, oh, I just want to do 2 or 3 things, and we unload stuff to all kinds of people who are already really busy. And so the key is to develop new leaders, right? Develop people in these areas that you see that are lacking, these areas that you see that you need to get off your table, other people. Don't just shove them off to someone else and now have to find someone else to do that work for you. Get it to people who want those things. Your job as a leader also is to help develop new people and to look for those people that can do those things. So I just encourage you as a leader, lead well in that way. And the last thing, number 5, is the unwillingness to develop other leaders, which goes along with what I'm saying here in the last one. Leadership is not always about getting things done right. It's about getting things done through others, which multiplies both your efforts and your results. That's so true. We need to develop people. If you got the same team for years and years and years, I'm not saying the whole team has to go, but I am saying it's time for that team to train new people. It's time for them to say, you know what, let's develop other people. It's great for an organization to get new ideas, especially if your organization, we have older people making all the decisions for a long time. Man, there are young people with great ideas, and they are looking sometimes, and maybe they're not looking, but they need to look with people that have wisdom and discernment, and they can learn that wisdom and discernment from people that are older, and then they can grow in that way and become really great leaders who can put years and years and years into leadership. And so again, so important to look for potential in other people. Isn't that what Jesus did? He went around and he called the disciples, right? By name. He looked for them. He says, hey, you're going to follow me today. I'm going to make you a fisher of men. Or he would have all these things that he would say. He saw potential in people. He looked at people and he had compassion for them, but he also called them up to a higher standard and says, I see this in you. You can do great things. And so I just encourage you today, man, be a leader that's wise about your focus and identify those areas of that only you can do, the things that you thrive in, the things that you can really want to grow in, and very wisely begin to delegate those areas that are not your core competencies to other people who enjoy them. Develop the leadership team around you so that can happen in a great way. It's not just information flying all over the place, but it's people that can take it, and they can take it far better than you and I can because they love it. So a couple of things in closing. A couple of questions I have for you. What are the areas that you're best in? I want you to really encourage you to think about those things. And what is it that only you can do? What is it that only you can and should do? That was, for me, was a hard question. I had to really think about that when I was a senior pastor. What is it that I should do? And I really had to consider that list, and I had to empower other people with things that I wasn't good at, just like it's saying here. But this helped me a lot at that time to do that. And the third question is, who can you delegate and empower things to? And so those are the three questions that I leave you with, and it's something that us to consider, myself right now as well. And so I pray that God will bless you as you continue to seek Him. I hope this session has been good for you. We have several sessions coming up also as we continue this book. And get that book if you haven't got it already. You can see it, the link here below. And as always, if you enjoy the content here, I just encourage you to click that you like the video and subscribe to these videos or to this channel as well. Hey, we're praying for everyone that's watching these videos. So whoever you are, wherever you're at, praying that God will bless you. If you're far from God, my friend, I encourage you, come to the Lord. He loves you, has a plan for your life. He's got so much for you. Draw near to God. He'll draw near to you. And get involved in a great church near you, local church that will bless you, help you to grow in your faith, and one that's preaching the Word of God. So have a great day. God bless you. Thanks for taking the time to watch today.